Hi guys, welcome back to the Volvo project, and as you can see the body teardown has been completed. The rear axle was the last big piece, but before I took the rear axle out I tested my wheel fitment tool. Let's check that clip now, and also let's see how the rear axle actually came off the car. And as I mentioned before, this is my wheel fitment tool that I designed myself and 3D printed. With this you can have some kind of idea how different sized wheels is gonna fit in your car. This part is different than I would say in the rim. The brake caliper check is not that specific, but I think that if this will fit, the tire will fit. But here you can see the inner and the outer side of the rim. As you can see, this would hit in the fender. I adjusted this, it is 16-inch diameter and 9-inch wide, and the ET is like plus 11 millimeters. And there's like these grooves, so I could put like the profile of the tire, paper model or something like that if I want to see how the actual tire fits. And you can adjust it by loosening this bolt. And now you can just put the width. Let's say I want to try 8 inches wide, and it actually 215 millimeters. You can check, there's the millimeter and here the inch. And then if I want to change the ET, I would just slide it a little bit. Like there's ET0, and then just tighten this bolt back. But now it is 8 inches wide and ET is 0, so you can see that the outer side of the rim is actually in the same position, almost at the same position at the 9-inch with plus 11 millimeter ET. So only thing that has moved is the inner side of the wheel. This tool gives you some kind of idea like what would be the best dimensions of your wheel. I started removing the rear axle. I untied these upper control arms. This side has like rusted bolt, so it's still on there. The other side came off nicely. These are also like removed all the way. So the whole rear axle is actually held by the shocks. And the plan is now to lower the car on the ground, untie the upper bolts and just lift the car up, and they should stay on the ground. Yeah, the rear axle came off pretty easily. I was surprised that so many bolts were like pretty easy to untie. There was only this one bolt for the upper control arm that I needed to cut off because it was rusted in the inner sleeve. But other than that, they came off pretty easily. And also all the handbrake parts and stuff came off pretty nice. I made this cover from plywood. I cut it with my laser so that any dirt doesn't get inside the rear axle, so I can like sandblast it now. The other side is still open. I emptied the oil. First I flipped the whole rear axle vertically, and after some time I made it a little bit uneven so that all the rest of the oil have some time to come out. All the parts are here waiting for sandblasting, the front and rear suspension parts. And I also took in the body grill just to like to melt all the snow off, and I need to fix this front wheel. I made the handle and the chain from old motorcycle, so I can like use the handle to turn the body. And if I remember correct, I can lock it like in every 5 degrees where I want. There's 2 holes on the back, and these are like 10 degrees off, if I remember correctly. The other part is like more simple, but there's one lock for the horizontal level. So it is like the purpose of that is it like if I want to move this around with my loader or something, so it doesn't like turn. You can put it like behind the car if you want, but I would recommend to go slowly. Before I put the body on the grill, I wanted to see how the wheels would fit also in the front. And the body is laying on the hoist right now, and the legs are on the ground, so I can't have the body lower at the time. Right now the rear wheels are just under the body, there's no rear axle anymore. And at the same time I've moved it a little bit forward just to see how it would look if I would move the rear axle to the front a little bit. And I think it looks pretty nice. The front rims are the same 16-inch Peugeot steel rims, but they are not turned. Only the center is moved a little bit inner. I just attached the subframe and lower control arm just to see the angle of the control arm. Now it's 19 centimeters. So there is plenty of room for the brackets. So if we pretend that this is the normal driving height, except if you want to go to the summer cottage or to pick up some berries in the forest, then you might need some extra ground clearance. But in the tarmac, this could be pretty okay, like driving height. So I'm just measuring what is the length, what is the space for the air spring at the moment, because every air spring has this different like comfort zone, if you will. So the pressure and the length is good for like driving normally. So I'm trying to like match it, because I might need to buy another set of the airbags. So I'm measuring so that I can buy the right one. I was thinking the Airhouse 2 model, and if I remember correct, the optimum height was like 13 to 15 centimeters. So I think now it's 19, so there's few centimeters room for the bracket, so I think it's pretty good. So at this height, the room for the spring is 19 centimeters. If the spring extends like 1 centimeter, the right height is gonna extend 2 centimeters. So I think there is plenty of extra if you want to go even higher. The body is not horizontally leveled right now in the hoist. The rear should be a little bit higher at the moment, but the plan was to check the room in the front for the new airbags. As you can remember, the front beam was almost gone.
Surprise!
So now I have removed all the rust. And once you start cutting, you can like see better where the metal start to get like a little bit better. The upper side of this is like more complex. There are like shapes that you can do very easily, but luckily it is still okay. And for example, there's these bolts for the front piece, and this beam is made like two different pieces. There's like seam with spot welds, and the inner side, this is like almost straight 90-degree angle. Only in the end there's little like this slope that needs to be made here, but otherwise it is pretty simple piece. And the front piece is like with two bends. It's not too bad. And there is like this shape, but luckily there's only one like angle in the middle, so you can make the half like with one piece. And of course in the left side there's little more work when you have to make it like this. Few more like bends, but nothing too crazy. It is a little bit more simple than it first looked, so I'm glad about that. And I also removed the battery support. It was welded here, and there was some old original pieces that was just left there, but I angle grind it off. And this piece was still like pretty okay, but there was holes and some cracks, so I'm gonna make a new one. I started doing some rust repairs for the main beam. The frame, here was tiny hole, but nothing too crazy. I think the rust has got up to here because the cross beam is here located in here, so the frame was full of dirt and rust. I had to clean it like with screwdriver and compressed air, but now it's pretty okay. Then I got this old patch. It was just welded on the rust metal, so I need to make a new one. I think I just copy the shape of the other side and make this part before I continue, because the whole frame, at least this side and the bottom side, needs to be replaced. It is full of rust, but I need to make this part first because the shape transforms in here. Here it is 90 degrees, but after this it's like twisting a little bit. So this transmission bracket fits like this. So before I cut everything off, I put some new metal in here, so I don't lose the shape. The car is now attached to the body grille. It's still also on the hoist, on the crane, so I don't know is it gonna hold. We will see soon. In the rear, I mounted it to the original bumper support brackets. This one, it is held in the frame with 3 bolts, and it is somehow in the same part as the main beams here. Then I just welded few brackets so you can attach it, so you can take it apart by these bolts. And the same thing in the other side. But I also reinforced the rear a little bit because the main beam is not that tall. The side panels give some sort of support, but it was pretty easy to put it, so there's just thin wall metal tube in there to give like a nice triangle shape. And it is bolted to one of the bolts for the hinges of the trunk. The hinge removal or the spring removal is its own thing, so let's check that video in here. I am taking these trunk hinges off, and as you might know, there is this spring inside that holds the trunk up, and it's pretty strong spring, so to taking these off it's not that easy. The spring is so strong so you cannot take these off by hand, at least I'm not, but there is a way. The other one is already off. It is off, and you might see a mark in here. This was not actually in the right place, so the other end was here and it should be in here. But the way you take them off is to like compress it, like close the trunk and put a steel wire or something, and then lift the trunk and it should like just hold and you can just take it off. This was easier because this other end was off, so I could like push the steel wire in there, but in this position you cannot just put it, so I need to figure it out how to do it. But that's the base idea. The front one is also bolted to the bumper bolts. I used these also for the Beetle project. I just needed to cut off this angle support, and this is just few centimeters wider than the Beetle's frame. Here are the Beetle two holes and pretty close. On the lower part there's just one bar like taking off the, just keeping the two things together. I think they would like to like twist like this and separate. So it is like a pulling bar. I put some pre-tension to that thing. I take a ratchet and I pull it together and then tighten the bolt. So it is a little bit like this, because I think it's gonna, it wants to like go like this, so it's just a pre-tension. Now it's the time to lower the crane, and we will see how it will support itself, or is it just gonna crack. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, now it's time to test the turning. It's different to think how the car would support itself like on the normal way, like this way, but how it's gonna support it when it's like on the side or on upside down. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking. Yeah, there you go. It's pretty nice to do some kind of rust repairing now compared to the upside down. It is not perfectly balanced. The roof is a little bit heavier now, but you can manage to handle it. I was thinking that there's so much more metal in the underneath, so but I think like 5 to 10 centimeters offset would have been the best. Let's see how it's gonna turn upside down. It's just barely. There you go. Now I just need to move it to the other place so I can use the lift for other projects, like maintains your daily drivers. So, but I need to move it from outside because it's too long to try to wiggle in here. I need to rotate it back up and lock it to the transportation position. Yep, the car moved here pretty easy with my loader. First I tried to hook it in the rear. The loader's hitch was 20 centimeters higher than in the grill, so I couldn't lift it that high. I just drilled a hole and put the ball in here. But that worked pretty nicely. It was actually better like that because now you saw the car all the time in your front. You didn't have to turn your head. It was pretty easy to steer, but the length of this is 6 meters, so the turns are very wide. I had to correct it one time because it was going to the wall. And also you could just lift or lower the front if there's a bump, because that is so low. So you could just lift it a little bit. But yeah, it came pretty nicely. I just turned the car to the side, so there's more room here to walk at the time. I think the next step is to sandblast it, at least the bottom side, maybe the engine room, maybe some floors inside, we'll see. I just need to bring the sandblaster and air compressor here one weekend. But the weather needs to be dry, so we'll see which weekend it's gonna be. And also these parts need to be sandblasted. There are all the parts from the suspension and some brackets and support beams, and so it's gonna take a while to sandblast everything. But finally the car is on the grill. It is good feeling to do a middle cleaning when you achieve a certain stage of your project. So I think I'm gonna take a day off tomorrow and just take a rest a little bit. But I will see you in the next one. Bye.